first exposure to Satyajit Ray was without any introduction about him. This was in 1958, I think. The place where I saw, this was Panchali in 16 millimeter. And this was Gandhi Gram in Madurai district of Tamil Nadu. This is Gandhi Gram was being established by Dr. G. Ramachandran, who was a disciple of Tagore and also Gandhiji in Sevagram. So he combined these two institutions into one, according to his concept, and then formed this Gandhi Gram. So there I joined as a student. This was my second year there, and one evening our professor of Malayalam language, who at that time was an up-and-coming playwright. Later he became a doyen of the theatre, in fact, Professor Shankar Pillai. So one evening he said, and we had one Datto who had studied in Shantiniketan. So Datto happened to be the art director or something. I don't know the exact position he held, but he he represented the Bengali local culture, Okay. So through him, the print, 60 millimeter print of this Father Panchali was brought in. At that time, there was no subtitling in practice, nowhere in the world, 1958. In fact, it is about 20 years later, we ourselves started hearing about subtitles. So a Bengali film, we don't understand the language. And the filmmaker, and my Professor Shankar Pillai, who had the general understanding of things, etc., he was very open to what was happening around. He said, a student from, this is what he said, a student, an artist, not student, an artist from Shantiniketan has made a film. And he got some award outside India, France or somewhere. This was all I heard about this film. This was all my introduction. So then the film was shown on a wall. You know the 60 millimeter projections are normally on a wall. Film started, and slowly I discovered that this is not the kind of cinema I have ever seen before. Nobody has put on any makeup, and everything looked too real. Very old people with wrinkles all over the face, particularly one woman. And then everything like that, the kind of situations shown, etc. So whatever they talked, I did not understand a thing about it. And what I liked about it was, it looked very real, very close to life. And it almost looked like a village somewhere in Kerala, because with the coconut trees and all that. And of course, the architecture, everything is different. All the same, the village is a village wherever it is in India, actually. What impressed me were some of the sequences where there was no dialogue. Even in that film, I enjoyed particularly a scene where there is very loud drumming going on, and there's a trumpet being played, etc. And it's a festival in the village. And there are two very old people. They are trying to talk to each other. He says something, the other fellow cannot make out anything in that noise. So this was very interesting for me, because it's a great observation of life. He made a humor out of it. Just two old men trying to talk to each other while the whole thing is so loud, with the trumpeting and the drumming. So that looked very beautiful. And also some sequences where the sweetmeat seller, with his bow-like thing on the shoulder, and then those the balancing act, he is carrying it through. There is a sequence of this man coming and all the children turning up to him because they can buy sweets from him. Of course, this this boy and the girl, they are so poor, they cannot, you know. So all these things we understand when you watch the film. And the old woman fondling the child when it is born, and the kind of smile on the old woman's face, that it looked very heartening. And all those sequences. But then I did not really understand everything, because then I realized you have to really understand the language spoken by characters. Unless you do that, you cannot get inside. And then it was 4 years later, I landed in Pune Film Institute. There I must have seen it 25 times, maybe 30 times, over and again. Our professor of direction, Professor Satish Bahadur, he had made Father Panchali the text for us to study. He studied each composition. He talked about what it means, etc. All those connections, what Ray did to portray a scene, set a scene, etc. So that was proper understanding of the film. The film was seen with sound, without sound, like that, sequence-wise. So it was a text. We were watching it threadbare, I must say. Yes, actually, it became universal because it was very essentially Indian. He has said, I learned filmmaking from Hollywood, but I also learned from how not to make films also from the Hollywood films. Commercial cinema is not Indian. It's a farcical limitation of life. Not even life, it's a sometimes you cannot say dreams, but then it is something like nightmares. We still think that melodrama, without melodrama, the film will not work. And look at any of Ray's films, there is no melodrama. There is drama, but then there's a different kind of drama. It's not the kind of fireworks, no, not at all. It's an internalized kind of dramatic feeling you get, and very much something which is imbibed in you. So that's what Ray was marked out for, because he basically dealt with life not observed by others until then. The others were doing imitations or or falsehoods reproduced, etc. That was what was going on. That made Ray very different from others. And he was very interesting. He was not part of the so-called film industry. He was a complete outsider. His cameraman was an outsider. He never had shot even 1 foot of film. He was a still camera. So, but then they had the confidence watching films, talking about it, learning from it, having interactions with people like Pudovkin, and so many others who came to India. And Calcutta, obviously, they visited. And then the most important thing, Renua came to shoot River. So he had the right kind of influences in that sense. He used to go and watch shooting every day. He used to be almost like a member of the unit. And his friends were working with Renua. And it seems Renua told them in fact, when you make a film, never imitate Hollywood. You make your own films. Talk about your reality. This is what he said. It was very interesting. So, at a time when he couldn't have been swayed in a different way, but all the same, he got the right inputs, in fact, at that time. Whatever he was seeking, he was getting. That was the truth. Even again, see, I think the most important woman he has portrayed is in Charilada. I'm sorry, not Charilada. In Padar Panchali, the Sarvajaya, the character Sarvajaya, and particularly in that segment of the film, Abhirajito. This is the real Indian woman, the essential Indian woman. It is there in that character, much more than any other. If you take other films like the Mahanagar and all that. They are also very interesting women, but nothing to compare with Sarvajaya in these two films. Those are my favorite films. Particularly, once I told Manikda that my favorite film is Avarajito. Then I asked him, then he said, Adoor, I had to. The Venice people were rushing me to send a print. So I had to rush through my editing. I had to cut a little more. But I said, Manikda, don't touch it. He laughed at, don't touch it. It's a great film. And I later found that both Ghatak and Manalda, both of them have this as their favorite film. In Pune, when Ghatak was my professor also, professor of direction, he used to show passages from Ray's films and tell us, here is great cinema, look, here is great cinema. That kind of admiration, his compatriots had for him. With a great pain, I could see. He told me a story about when the Ghatak died, he went to the hospital. As he was coming out of the hospital room, some 2-3 young men were standing there and they pointed their finger at him and told him, you killed Ghatak. And they asked me, Adoor, can you imagine this? They point their finger at me and say, you killed Ghatak. They are so misguided, these boys. Where do they get these ideas? I said, that is most uncharitable comment anybody can make, because it was Ray who recommended Ghatak to the institute, to Mrs. Gandhi, because Ghatak was having no work. There were flops one after the other, and then he had no work to do. So Ray knew that this man is very well read and he is a scholar and all that. So Ray recommended to Mrs. Gandhi that you should give him a job at the institute. So she appointed him actually as the professor of direction and vice principal of the institute. So that's how he came there in 1962, 63 in fact, 63. So I was lucky to be his student. Yes, because he was very passionate about cinema. Once I talked about Ghatak, Manikda endorsed me. He said he is one filmmaker who has cinema running in his veins. This is what he said. How charitable. See, while at the Film Institute, I saw very many outstanding films from Calcutta, particularly Calcutta, because all Bengali films are made in Calcutta only, and all the filmmakers are in Calcutta, although some of them came from East Bengal. So I fell in love with every they were particularly masterpieces that were being shown, very important films being shown. Even lesser known filmmakers were shown, in fact, at the Film Institute. I had the opportunity to watch. Then I thought every Bengali film should be like that. So the first time I went to Calcutta, I told my friends that I want to see every Bengali film running there in the theatre. So they told me, Adoor, you will be disappointed. Don't do that. All Bengali films are not that good. No, I must see. And they were right. I saw a film there in one cinema. I said, enough. His films became great because he was talking about a life and culture which he knew very intimately. That was his upbringing. Not only he did not have to go and live in a village. In fact, the village where he shot the film, they visited, they went several times. That's all. Because it was almost in the outskirts of Calcutta, this place. So, but for him to make a film in Hindi, it worked. Satyajit Ray, it worked because it was about a period piece. And then he was very much interested again in history and things like that. His areas of interest, it's very wide. So he had done enough research before doing that film. He had important stars from Bombay to do those roles, and they did. It was all good. But when you talk about race films, Satyajit Ray doesn't come to my mind. It's interesting. It's an interesting exercise, and I'm happy he did not continue that because it doesn't make sense. Now, why should anybody think that, especially in today's time when the language barrier can be overcome by using subtitles in any language, you can subtitle it. The technology has made it possible. So why should I? People have been asking me, why don't you make a film in Hindi? I said, why should I? There are nuances of differences, not only a question of delivery of dialogue. There is a lot of difference in the way the language is being used in each region. So a particular language has evolved out of a certain kind of living, certain kind of food you eat, certain kind of rains that you get, certain kind of vegetation that is around. We are all part of that. And the language is the flower of a culture. So it's very, very important. The same word can be expressed in various different ways with in different intonations. So you have to subtleties of a language. It's a part of the culture of that part of that region. So I have great respect for him because he did not feel like getting out of Calcutta or Bengali language. So that was the right thing he did. And he became all the more international for that reason. Everything was authentic. I met him, because he never visited Film Institute during my time there. But the very first opportunity I got was in 1979. When, by that time, I had already made my first film, Swayamvaram. That was in 72. This film was completed in 1977. It was a part of the Indian Panorama in 78 in Madras. Indian Panorama screening started there. And at that time, again, there was no subtitling. Only the concept of an Indian Panorama was there, but then we had not done enough work on subtitling and all that. So it was, all the films were shown without subtitling. So in those days, festivals were being held in Delhi. In 1979, when the International Film Festival was being held there in Delhi, I took a print of this with my second film, Kodiyatam. So I arranged the screening there. Then I found out that Ray was there already. He was staying in the same hotel, the Ashoka Hotel, where I was also staying. So I invited some of the guests who had come for the festival, arranged a screening, and then I went and knocked on his door, and then I came out and I said, I want to show you my film. Yes, when is it, etc. Then he came for the screening, and 5 to 8 minutes into the film, he started laughing aloud. There were 10 or 15 guests sitting. They were all looking back into the dark, who is laughing like this? And he enjoyed the film thoroughly. And after the film, he said, come on, let us talk. So he took me along. We went back to the hotel. We were sitting in the foyer and we started talking about it. First question he asked me was, are you going to do away with background score altogether? Because there is no background score in that film, So ever since sound was invented, there has been background score, cinema everywhere. So this fellow did not use it. He was asking. I said, I did not use it because background score has a problem because it will kind of underscore an action, without being intended. and then audience will think, but here is a character who is just floating around. He is not in one track or the other. He is just like that. So I did not want him to be sentimentalized or to be taken for this or that. So I just wanted to leave it open. And even the structure of the film is episodic. So then he understood. Then he told me, look, background score, if you use it very sparingly, it can be very effective. I said, Manikda, I used the background score in Swayambara. Only this film, because of its nature, I have. So we kept on discussing about this and that. That was a very interesting session. From that time onwards, every film I made until in 1990 January, he saw every film I made afterwards. And after every screening, he would ask me to come next day just to sit and talk. I used to go talk to him. And even when my last film that he saw was Madhulivar, and it was being shown at the Gorky Southern in Kolkata. As you know, you have to climb lot of steps to reach. No car will go to the theater. Actually, I knew he had this operation, and he was asked by the doctor not to climb any steps, particularly. So I did not have any hope of his coming to see the film. So all the same, as usual, I called him over the phone and told him this film is being shown tomorrow, etc. Then he said, Adoor, I have been advised not to climb many steps. That theater means I will have to climb many steps. Anyway, let me see. I am not very hopeful, etc. He said. So I said, don't strain yourself if you feel like. Then I somehow I had a feeling that he will come. So, so I waited just 5 minutes before the screening of the film. I stood outside, hoping that he will now arrive. And then came a car and stopped at the very foot of the steps, the flight of steps. And I ran down and I said, Manikda, I'm so happy you could come. No, Adoor, I had to come. That's what he said. Then he slowly walked up, saw the film, and at the end of the film, he told me, marvelous, Adoor, marvelous. This is what he said as a response to the film. So, his comment, his response to it, he spread there in no time. The whole festival, everybody came to know about it. And the next day's Calcutta papers wrote that Ray goes to see Adoor's film. So that was exceptional. So I was very, very honored and pleased and blessed, by all that. Understand his films. Try to understand his films. See his films. Very recently I wrote about the trilogy for a Malayalam magazine. In a very detailed article I wrote. There, while I was writing, I felt the trilogy is like Mahabharata. Everything is there in this film. Everything is there in the film. That's such a great work. You put the three together, it's a great work. Life flows before you, like a river. It is poetic, it is lyrical, it is paining, it is exhilarating, it is hopeful. All that, everything is there in this film. It's a great saga. Yes. Yes. So people should understand. They should develop the sensitivity to respond to these films. It's very important. Any number of seminars want to. Which film on Tagore? Yes, right. It's a great film. Actually, when under the chairmanship of Mr. Manmohan Singh, there was a national committee formed to celebrate the 150 years of Tagore. So I happened to be one of the members the committee, and we had this meeting in Delhi. So while everybody was giving suggestions about how to celebrate, etc., my suggestion was, I had heard by that time that many people had given proposal to make films, whether those stories which have probably not been made into a film, or they wanted to do some films again. So my proposal was, please don't make another film. Please don't go to give contract for another film to be made on Tagore or one of these films, stories. Don't do that. I have one suggestion. Make copies of this film on Tagore, which was produced by the government, Films Division. And it celebrated 100 years of Tagore, centenary. The film was centenary tribute to Tagore. Make copies of this film, send it to every educational institution in the country, and let every student see it. That is my proposal. And I vehemently oppose any more films being made on him. There cannot be a better film on Tagore. Please don't attempt. Don't waste public money like that. This is my suggestion. One film, I forgot to tell you, one film I enjoyed thoroughly was Sonar Kella. It's a pleasure watching it. I said, our boys and girls should watch it. Everyone should watch it. It is full of humor, full of thrill.
Yes.
Where else can you see this? That I thoroughly enjoyed. These are one of my choices. Other one is, of course, the Abu trilogy. I'll treat it as one film.
Yeah.
Second one is, and another one is Music Room.
Jal Sagar.
Jal Sagar. And the next one is Devi. These are great masterpieces. Great masterpieces. I also liked his last film, not one of his masterpieces, but this Aganduk. That year I happened to be chairing the national jury, and I was instrumental in giving the film the award for the best film and also the best director. He has been a source of inspiration for me throughout my career. If Ray were not there, Indian cinema would have been very different. Not what it came to be later. So and of course he was followed by others, but then he opened the real way for us to go along, to march along. So he was a path breaker in that sense. So every serious filmmaker in this country, every worthwhile filmmaker in this country is influenced by Ray. That is his biggest contribution to Indian cinema. He is influenced in the most positive way. Yes, so one should, anyone who wants to take up cinema as a profession should study his films. Closely study his films, not the story and dialogue only, but how. See, it's very important because when he you may not know, I don't know. He did not write a script for Father Panchali. What he did was to do sketches. And also there is a wrong notion spread by the Western press, Western critics, that his film was neo-realistic. Far from it. I have also written about it. That it cannot be, it is true that Ray saw this film, Bicycle Thieves in London. But Bicycle Thieves have his work. His work is lyrical. And then the neorealism was a product of the World War. And the harm and destruction and total state of devastation done to Italy, particularly Rome, in fact. So all these filmmakers like Calcutta, no, they are all in Rome. So Rome became the home of all these new development, new deep themes. So it was from the ashes of the war came up the neo-realistic films. But in Ray's work, Panchali particularly, Vibhuti Bhushan wrote that novel in the 1910s. Even the First World War was not fought at that time, let alone Second World War. You know, maybe through the First World War period he completed it, maybe. But anyway, it did not reach any of our villages at that time, the First World War. What really affected all of us was the Second World War. But then his films had nothing to do with the situation of war. Nor is his film about poverty. This is again another stupid notion people have about. It is not about poverty. It is about dignity.